It's Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
Six of time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me, and over the hump we go. It's Wednesday. Weather, not bad today overall. Pretty good. Just gets better as the week goes on. So, you're going to like the way we're starting the show today. Hang on.
Today's show is sponsored by Armpit Hair Dye, because waving goodbye should be more colorful.
That was actually based on a real thing. You can find people who like to, when they color their hair, they like to color their armpit hair. All sorts of interesting rainbow colors. Hey, it's their armpit, whatever.
Warning, this show contains reference to guns, liberty, limited government, low taxation, the cult of climate change, free thinking, cigar smoking, short people, rubber chickens, Karen's bureaucracy, liberal buzzwords, tour runs, traffic, toilets, terrible jokes, and more. No apologies will be issued. Guest callers may express any opinion they want without fear of being canceled. Unless you're a loudmouth jerk like Dave, then Glenn will hang up on you. Strap in, hold on to your coffee, and feel free to participate.
This disclaimer does not refer to every person named Dave, just one particular Dave from San Francisco.
We know a lot of Daves. They call this show all the time, and they're great people. So don't call this program and complain that we use your name. That would be a real Dave move, Dave. So yesterday at this time, I started by playing a really dumb. It was from The View, Ladies on The View, and I'll play that audio again. There's this one lady on The View who thought, because there's these two species of cicadas that are coming to life, or coming around, I should say, for mating season, and usually they don't do it at the same time, but these two groups are coming around the same time. And it's been, I think, a couple hundred years since that last happened. That and a earthquake in New York, and a solar eclipse. And she blamed it all on climate change. In which case, even people like Whoopi Goldberg, thank you, said, you got to be kidding me. And correct, when Whoopi Goldberg is actually correcting someone and she's right, it's really bad. Yesterday, for those who didn't hear this, I'm playing it just for you. It gets worse. This, what I'm about to play for you, was released. This is Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. Now, before I play this, these are who we elect to government offices, people that are just this dumb. These are people that are making decisions for us, major decisions. There are actually people out there that are dumber than Bernie Sanders and dumber than Ocasio-Cortez, believe it or not. So here's the scene. Sheila Jackson Lee, a Democrat in Congress, is speaking in front of a bunch of school kids in her home state about the coming eclipse. And she's trying to educate them a little bit before they actually see the eclipse, which I don't think they saw much of it because in her area it was kind of cloudy, but okay. Now, I will say I did edit this a little bit. There are some places where she just rambles incoherently. So for sake of time, I just got rid of that. But I kept the meat of what she said. Are you sitting down? Okay. Here we go.
In the direction smaller than the sun, and the sun went in a direction, and then the earth. Now those provide unique light and energy so that you have the energy of the moon at night. And sometimes you've heard the word full moon. And sometimes you need to take the opportunity just to come out and see a full moon is that complete rounded circle, which is made up mostly of gases. The question is why or how could we as humans live on the moon? Are the gases such that we could do that? The sun is a mighty powerful heat that is almost impossible to go near the sun. The moon is more manageable. What you will see today will be the closest distance that the moon has ever been in the last 20 years, which means that's why they will shut the light down, because they will be close to the earth, that everything will be shut out. Now, we don't have any animals around here to be able to, maybe we'll hear some dogs barking, how they are impacted. And Dr. Simmons, I didn't go too far away from the scientific explanation. Is that correct, hopefully? All right, so I was near it. The solar system is bigger than us, though there are solar systems and there are systems that are smaller than the Earth. Still, we're in a solar system, and we depend on the Earth, the moon, and the sun. That is our existence. We have yet to know whether you can live on the moon. But I don't know about you. I want to be first in line to know how to live and to be able to survive on the moon. That's another planet, which you're going to see shortly.
Okay, so, how to unpack this? So the moon is another planet filled with a lot of gases, right? And the sun is almost impossible to get near to. Not impossible, but almost impossible to get near. I love it when she asked the science teacher who was standing nearby, how did I do that? Almost get all of that right? Oh, so I guess I got almost all of it right? Okay. She got none of that right. In fact, what she said was just insane. Now, that whole thing went on for a lot longer than I just played it. But again, some of it's just rambling. Incoherent rambling. This woman is in Congress, and she makes really important decisions every single day, including decisions on the economy, money, taxes, climate change, et cetera, et cetera. She makes all sorts of... This is why I said at the beginning of this, if you thought Bernie Sanders was stupid, meet Ocasio-Cortez. If you thought Ocasio-Cortez was stupid, meet Sheila Jackson-Lee. And trust me, we can go deeper than this. Some of the dumbest people have been, in fact, what was Fetterman, the congressman or the senator, who was showing up for work wearing sweatpants and so on. They finally fixed that. He was on a late night talk show. He, of all people, as dumb as he is, actually said, and he was kind of talking like that, in case you didn't know it, we actually elect some really, not so smart people to Congress. And the audience laughed. And yeah, this is what we elect into our government. One of the many reasons why, as more of a libertarian guy, I want the smallest possible government. I want these people responsible for as little as possible. And this is a great example as to why I want these people responsible for absolutely as little as possible. Because they will try to convince you that not only can they fix your healthcare system, but they can change the weather. And when you hear what Sheila Jackson-Lee just said, no wonder she thinks that if we just pass the right laws and rules and regulations, that we can go ahead and change the weather. So we'll never have to put up with another hurricane or tornado or anything bad ever again if we just allow Congress to change the weather for us. This is what we're dealing with. Real quick, what happened on The View yesterday?
And I have to say, Karen Dupiche, our wonderful makeup artist, when the earthquake was happening, she put her coat on, and she was like, Jesus is coming. I'm out. I'm out. I'm leaving. We've got a solar eclipse. We've got the earthquake. She ran down the hallway. The rapture is here. The rapture's here. And then also I learned that the cicadas are coming. Cicadas. Although I love for the first time in like 100 years. No. Two different. Well, this is what I read. Two different kinds of cicadas. Yes, two different times are coming. The good cicadas and the bad. So for the first time in many, many years.
No, every 17 years this happens.
Well, that's not what I read, but maybe you know better. But in a way, say all those things together would maybe lead one to believe that either climate change exists. Or something is returning.
Earthquakes are not at the mercy of climate change. It's underground.
It happens. And the eclipse, they've known about the eclipse coming because eclipses happen, and they actually can say when these things are going to happen.
Oh, my God. One of the many notes that have popped up while I was playing all that is Red, who's in Casper. That hurts. Yes, it does actually hurt the brain to hear that.
Every year, you pass your birthday and celebrate it. However, every year, you also pass your death day and have no clue. You just keep living your life until it just ends.
What?
And now, the weather.
Whoa, wait.
Well, that image is going to stick with you all day. Wake up, Wyoming. Glenn Woods is live on AM 1030 K2 Radio and the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app.
6:23 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Okay, I'll get to your comments in just a minute. People are using the app to text me comments by using the chat mode on the app, which is all free, by the way. Now, I'm not going to play the whole thing. I wouldn't do that to you. Just for the people who are coming in a little bit late this morning, Sheila Jackson Lee in front of a bunch of school kids during the eclipse.
In a direction smaller than the sun, and the sun went in a direction, and then the earth. Now, those provide unique light and energy so that you have the energy of the moon at night, and sometimes you've heard the word full moon, and sometimes you need to take the opportunity just to come out and see a full moon is that complete rounded circle, which is made up mostly of gases.
Oh, God. And it goes on. It's worse than that. And the moon is another planet, by the way. On and on it went. And here again, I still didn't play the whole thing because much of it, she just rambled, and it made no sense at all. So instead of playing the whole 5 minutes for you, I cut it down considerably. That was just... That's insanity. It's a mental disorder. It's insanity. I don't know if she's just stupid or on drugs or both. All right, so Mike from Leeds, South Dakota, Wallace and Gromit documentary told us years ago the moon was made of cheese. How out of touch is that woman? I'm with you. And I am all for heading up there and cutting off some slices and bringing it back to Earth for consumption. Jay and Casper, it's pretty amazing. With all that chuckling and squawking going on, The View, there are no eggs laid. I mean, there are, but not consumable. Yeah, I understand, Jay. Eddie John. Morning, Glenn. Sonny is a lawyer, speaks well of the profession. I'm not sure what you're talking about. Sonny is a lawyer, speaks well of the profession. Red and Casper, his brain hurt after listening to that whole thing. Big Wave and Casper, I'll throw the first $100 to send her to live on the moon. Because Sheila Jackson Lee said she wanted to live on the moon. Absolutely. Please, let's send her. And since she thinks there's gases up there, we don't need to give her any oxygen. Obviously, that brain is oxygen deprived anyway. And Jimmy and Casper, not only do they lead, but they breed. And I'm not sure which one is more scary. The breeding. Yeah, because that means there's going to be more of them. That's what's more scary. But this is what we elect. Now, I wonder, over the years, I have picked on Sheila Jackson Lee for all sorts of stupid things that she said. This has got to be among probably the dumbest, but she said some really dumb things. And I've often wondered, she's been in Congress for a long time, how the hell does she stay in Congress? I said the same thing when it came to Joe Biden. Senator Joe Biden been in the Senate since the 70s is when he started in government. And he was always a liar, naive, stupid, corrupt. And many times he was busted for it, and yet somehow he remained in Congress. Don't know how he's still there. And the same with Bernie Sanders and Ocasio-Cortez and Nancy Pelosi, to name a few of people who should have been just, if their constituents at home knew how bad they were, which often makes me wonder, do people at home who vote really know how bad they are? Corey from Nebraska, and they were high school kids. Yeah, she was talking to a bunch of high school kids. I wonder when it was all done, because they did pass out reading material to these kids. And I also wonder, which would have corrected everything the Congresswoman said. And I also wonder, when I got back to class the next day, did the science teacher say, okay, everything the Congresswoman said, yeah, never mind. But I still go back to, how do these people, it's beyond me, I don't know, how do these people keep getting reelected? I honestly don't have an answer to that as to how these people keep getting reelected. Now, one thing Rush Limbaugh used a lot was the low information voter. And I think a lot of it has to do with that. If you're listening to this program right now, you're someone who stays informed. You know more of what's going on than the average person because you pay attention. But there's a lot of people who don't pay attention at all to politics or anything that's going on. And so when it comes time to vote, they have no idea how bad Sheila Jackson Lee is. And so they'll just keep voting for her. The people who voted for Joe Biden probably never paid attention to all the scandals and all the stupidity surrounding him. And so they just kept voting for the guy, having no clue whatsoever what they were really dealing with. If anything, if we want to educate the public into electing a better breed of politician, I think a big part of it is not to get into political arguments with people, but just play stuff like I just played right there. I would love to go to Sheila Jackson Lee's congressional district, buy some radio and television time and some time on the internet too, and just say to people, just, would you listen to your Congresswoman? Just listen to her. This is what you've been voting for. This is what you've decided to have represent you. Coming up on 6:30, local news coming your way right after local news update on your weather forecast. You and I get back into it after that. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Start your day the right way. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on K2 Radio. Join the conversation at 888-97-WOODS.
.36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Real quick review. I'm not going to play it again because it's just going to cause brain tumors. Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, according to her, let's see, this is the closest, this eclipse was the closest the moon has been in 20 years. The moon is another planet, and it's filled with a lot of gases, which is why we're trying to figure out if we can live up there. That's the short story. It got worse than that. It was just horrible. Okay, so Doug and Cheyenne, actual proof you can survive without a brain. Yeah, and get a job, become a congressman, and keep it. Lee and Laramie, basically Lee is saying these people stay in office because they're given cover by the mainstream media, which I would say, yeah, they are. They're oftentimes given a lot of cover by the media who doesn't play stuff like this. It'd be great if I would love to go to Sheila Jackson Lee's home district. Again, television, radio, anything, social media, internet, and so on, and say to voters, this is what you've been voting for, which I do think the reason most of these people stay in office as long as they do is because of low information voters that absolutely pay no attention to what's going on, and then they vote, which is why every 2 years I have the stay out the vote campaign. Not the get out the vote campaign, but the stay out the vote campaign.
Darling, would you fetch me a beer out of the fridge?
So, I know everything about the Kardashians, Beyonce, and stuff like that. But I know nothing about who my governor is or whoever runs the state. So this year I'm doing my patriotic duty and stay out the vote.
Thank you, darling. I can give you every major stat for the Rockies for the last 15 years, but I can't tell you who the mayor of Denver is. That's the reason why this year I'm doing my patriotic duty and stay out the vote.
Too lazy to stay informed? Then stay home. Stay out the vote. Your country is counting on you. See, this is where a lot of people will get confused when I start this campaign. I get this a lot. Well, everybody has a right to vote. Yeah, everybody does have a right to vote. But there's also a responsibility to be an informed voter. And if you're not going to stay informed, you have to keep up with everything, but at least be an informed voter, then why are you showing up? You going to grab that ballot and just guess?
Do you pay much attention to politics? So what, do you get your news from Facebook, Twitter, maybe some late-night comedy show? Do you even have any idea who your senator is? Who's the vice president? So how do you decide who you're going to vote for? What do you, flip a coin? Every election season, there are get-out-the-vote campaigns, asking completely unqualified voters to show up at the polls at the last minute and flip a coin. If you've spent the past 2 years completely uninformed and out of the loop, then do your country a favor. Don't show up at the polls. Don't vote. Take the day off. Go to the beach. Hang out at your local bar. Watch a ball game instead. Or check out some reality TV. Our nation's in sad shape because people like you have been voting. So this year, do your country a favor. Stay home. Stay out of the vote. America is depending on your apathy. Brought to you by the Campaign to Promote Uninformed Voter Apathy.
Pardon me, I interrupted myself there. One of my favorite ones. Yeah, Corey from Nebraska. And the full moon is round. Yeah, when it's a half moon, there's actually a real-life bite taken out of it. So, okay, one of my favorite ones, the Honest Political ad, where a politician actually explains honestly that he knows absolutely nothing. But please vote for stupid, if you would, please. Vote stupid and vote for stupid. A politician with an honest
Hello, my
ad.
name is Carl, and I'm running for Congress in your district. I'm not an expert in anything. Nothing. Not a thing. But I sure know how to look like I know what I'm talking about, and that's why I'm electable. I'm not an expert on guns, or finance, or science. Heck, I flunked science in school 3 times. I know nothing about automobiles or engines of any kind. I know nothing about energy, gas, coal, oil, green energy, whatever that means. I've never held a gun in my life, and actually I'm kind of scared to. But if you elect me into office, I promise to pass laws regulating everything that I know nothing about. I promise to act like the expert that I never really could be, because I cannot pass the test to get a job in that field to save my life. But I can regulate it. Yes, that's what America needs today. Experts in nothing to regulate everything. After all, isn't that what government does best?
Morning, Shelley. Shelley's in Mills. What is truly sad is that people do not want to be informed. I meet that too. Look, I understand when it comes to politics, it gets really annoying. It really does. And a lot of people just don't want to get involved in it. They don't want to pay attention. So, but the problem with that is then those same people go vote. Yeah, if you're not going to pay attention, I understand why you don't want to pay attention. This stuff can be really annoying. But if you don't pay attention, then again, you're going to show up at the polls and guess? Is that your plan? I know it's your right to vote, but if you're just guessing at the polls, all you're doing is hurting yourself and the rest of the country and your local community.
You can't control how good a day you're going to have, but you can control how weird a day everybody else has. Be the weirdest, most confusing, unhinged part of everybody's day.
Admit it, you were hoping somebody would say that. Got something to say to Glenn? Use the chat on the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app and get your opinions straight to the studio with K2 Radio.
6:48 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Off to the icebox we go. Frank Gambino waiting by. Okay, Frank, help me out with this one here. I have a picture of a bunch of people in a swimming pool, right?
Okay, and they're all in the pool.
They're all huddled together.
Okay.
In one corner of the pool.
Why?
And they took the umbrella off, the big umbrella off of the table that was next to them, and they're in the pool huddled under the umbrella because it's raining.
Why didn't you just get out of the pool?
Well, if it's raining, everybody's already soaking wet.
Right.
What difference does the rain make?
My guess would be this.
Yeah.
They paid big money to get in that pool. It's probably at some resort. And it's like, you know what? I paid big money. I'm going to stay in this pool until I get wrinkly. I don't care if it's raining or not.
That's fine. Well, then why the umbrella?
Right.
If they're already soaking wet.
But they want to be in the pool.
Yes, that's fine being in the pool. But if you're already soaking wet head to toe and you intend to stay in the pool and it starts to rain, why the umbrella?
Maybe they didn't have a shower cap on or something.
I don't see. Okay, I'm not even going with the shower cap. Actually, I just not.
Maybe it was hailing or something.
Yeah, now, if it was hailing, I could see the umbrella would provide some protection. But if it's storming that bad, don't be in the pool.
Right. But you're at a big resort. That means I'm getting my pool time.
Yes.
Because I have to go back to states like Wyoming and Montana. And Utah,
I'm fine with them being in the pool. I just still don't understand the umbrella thing. You're in the pool with the umbrella to protect you from the rain because you don't want to get wet in the pool.
Yes. I no comprende.
Okay, so, this is, when I see stuff like this, Frank, what this tells me is, unless I like hearing stupid all day long, don't hang out with these people. Maybe stupid entertains me.
Oh, I hope it does, because stupid does not entertain me.
Actually, a good part of this program is pointing out stupid. And then here's the hard part, Frank. Pretending that I'm not.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Boys high school soccer from yesterday. Kelly Walsh beat Riverton 4-0 to improve to 5-2 on the year. Season moving along quickly, and the 4A boys standings as of right now. Cheyenne Central 6-0, Cheyenne East 4-2, Laramie 4-1-1, Natrona 1-4-1, and Cheyenne South 1-5. Girls soccer from last night, defending 4A champion Kelly Walsh got a 3-0 win over Riverton, so the Trojans are 4-1-2. Also in the 4A standings, Laramie 4-2, East 3-2-1, Cheyenne Central and Cheyenne South at 4-1. And Laramie's at 1-2-3. High school golf, the spring season has arrived. It's just a matter of what the weather does. State titles in high school golf are decided in the fall, but the spring season does provide some great experience. Douglas hosted a big event back on Friday on the girls' side. Natrona took first, Campbell County second, and Torrington third. NC's Maggie Teague and Bailey Watson took first, each shooting rounds of 85. On the boys' side in that Douglas event, Wheatland first, Kelly Walsh second, and Cheyenne East third. Daniel Meyer of East and Isaac Schmidt of Kelly Walsh leading the way, carding 74s. Wyoming Cowboy football team cruising along with spring practices in Laramie. Normally speaking, starting jobs are not won or lost in the spring, but it's a great evaluating period, especially for new head coach Jay Sawvell. Folks will have another open practice this Saturday at War Memorial Stadium at 10:15 in the morning on Saturday, and you don't have practices. Let's put it this way. Under head coach Craig Bull, they didn't have open practices. The annual spring game will be Saturday, April the 27th at Cheyenne East High School. Major League Baseball, the Colorado Rockies dropped a tough 3-2 decision to Arizona last night in Denver. Elias Diaz of the Rockies went 2 for 4 with an RBI, and pitcher Cal Quantrell threw 6 innings, giving up 8 hits, 3 earned runs, and struck out 6. Those two teams will rev up that series this afternoon. In the National Hockey League, the regular season will be concluding soon, and the Colorado Avalanche beat Minnesota last night 5-2. They got a hat trick from Nathan McKinnon to improve to 49-24-6. Colorado is second in the Western Conference with 104 points and trail Dallas for first in the West with 3 games remaining in the regular season, and they are down by 5 points. That's it.
So I missed it. So the Rockies lost or won?
They lost, but they played decently.
Okay.
But they, when they pitch well, they don't hit.
Yes, right.
And when they hit well, they don't pitch.
Well, but also they played decently compared to who they were playing.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot like if you want to look like you've lost weight, stand next to a fat guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people that would love to see the Rockies be sold.
Uh-huh. And move out of state?
No, just find different owners there to have a little bit more commitment to what's going on.
Yeah, okay. Because apparently these guys just bought them and...
Oh, no, they've had them for a while.
Yeah, and are not paying attention to them?
Well, I don't know what their deal is.
Do the owners of the team know that they're losing?
Well, I'm sure they do.
Because we can make a phone call.
Yeah, and I'm not even sure that they care.
Yeah, just make a call and say, hey, do you guys know you suck? Just
they know, yeah.
Yeah, they do. All right. Thank you, Frank. Coming up on tell the Walton family, hey, you suck. Coming up on some local business that we have to take care of. Update on your weather forecast after that, then you and I get back into it. Wake up, Wyoming. Time is 7:06. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Clint Woods. Thanks for joining me. It's a Wednesday, and over the hump we go. Okay, stop the music real quick. last hour, I was talking to Frank Gambino. I pointed out a picture that I saw, a group of people in a swimming pool, in a corner of a swimming pool, all huddled together. And they grabbed a big umbrella from one of the tables nearby, and they're in the water, soaking wet, huddled under the umbrella because it's raining, which I just thought looked idiotic. Several people have said to me, but Glenn, the pool is warm. The rain is cold. That's why they have the umbrella. Yeah, well, the pool is only warm because everybody's peeing in it, okay?
Today's show is sponsored by Armpit Hair Dye, because waving goodbye should be more colorful.
Actually based on a real thing. Yeah, you can get armpit hair dye because some people like colorful armpit hair.
Warning, this show contains reference to guns, liberty, limited government, low taxation, the cult of climate change, free thinking, cigar smoking, short people, rubber chickens, Karen's bureaucracy, liberal buzzwords, tour runs, traffic, toilet, terrible jokes, and more. No apologies will be issued. Guest callers may express any opinion they want without fear of being canceled. Unless you're a loudmouth jerk like Dave, then Glenn will hang up on you. Strap in, hold on to your coffee, and feel free to participate.
This disclaimer does not refer to every person named Dave, just one particular Dave from San Francisco. We know a lot of Daves. They call this show all the time, and they're great people. So don't call this program and complain that we use your name. That would be a real Dave move, Dave. We had a representative in the House of Representatives in this state who I will not name, but every time I said her name, people's heads would explode. Remember the sound effect. I'm not going to mention her name, don't worry. But this is going to make other people's heads explode. Came across this story this morning, and this will make the heads explode of the people who are members of the cult of climate change. From Cowboy State Daily. $30 million project underway to move 3 miles of U.S. Highway 30 in Wyoming in order to get at the coal that is underneath it. The same reaction was in Germany because they keep trying to go all wind and solar in Germany. It's not working. They need reliable and affordable energy, and energy that doesn't kill birds, too. So they decided to turn back on some of their coal power plants. Even though they claim they're going to reach net zero, which is not possible. They claim they're going to turn on their power plants. So they start to do it. They start refining. I've heard people say, once you shut those coal power plants down, they're not coming back. You can turn them back on anytime you want. So they're turning back on this coal power plant, but they need to get at the coal. Much like up in Gillette, Wyoming, there's a couple of power plants, for example, where they just pull the coal out of the ground and run it up on a conveyor belt and right into the power plant. That's what they were doing at this one power plant in Germany. Unfortunately, somebody had built a bunch of wind turbines on top of the coal. So in order to get at the coal, they tore down the wind farm to get at the coal so they could relight the coal power plant. And all the environmentalists said, so let's get back to the story here in the state of Wyoming. The landscape, the story says, west of Kemmerer, port of entry, is about to get bulldozed up. The $30 million makeup isn't a hunt for organic fuels. No, they know where it is. It's to make it easier to get at the coal for the power plants and send customers looking to turn the commodity into, well, ammonia as well, to help with energy-starved trona mining operations. An estimated 1.2 million cubic yards of dirt will be moved from the rolling hillsides located just west of the port of entry. That is equivalent to about 50,000 truckloads of dirt, according to Jennifer Hoffman, Wyoming Department of Transportation chief engineer working on the project. Nearby Kemmerer coal mine has requested that 2.71 mile stretch of Highway 30 be realigned. Can we just move it north a bit, about a half mile, so it can gain access to rich coal reserves? Hoffman told Cowboy State Daily that an 80-foot to 100-foot vertical cut is needed into the hillside north of US 30. That's pretty deep cut for what they want to do. So the proposal of the project would allow the surface mining operations for the local coal company, currently under US 30 and to the north. The design process of moving a highway began back actually in 2018. They first started talking about this. It was put off for a few years, then restarted again in 2023. Current local goal is to have plans ready to begin carving into the landscape by January and complete the work by 2027. The design of the new highway path being considered to allow for the most coal recovery possible. Oh, my God. Again, members of the cult of climate change are just hating it because we're supposed to keep it in the ground. But this is going to allow for the most coal recovery possible. Unusual goal, working with the terrain to make safe curves and hills. You get the idea. In an email, Mike Memont, controller of the operations which owns the coal mine, declined to comment on the mine's future. He said the surface mine is located to the south and is about 15 miles total from the plant along the US 30 line. The land with the new coal reserves is already under lease, though the company hasn't yet secured all the permits, but they'll be needed. Now, about $30 million will be needed to do this. It was originally a 50-50 split, with the deal worked with the mine's previous owner and the current owner of the coal mine. The coal mine, and by the way, you notice as I'm reading this, not that I see anyway, we don't have a whole lot of money coming in from government. There is this. Besides the $30 million to pay for the highway's move, he explained that the mine kicked in $850,000 for the engineering work and realignment, and the county where the mine is located contributed $1.5 million. Now, I would like to know, there's where I stop and go, why is the county putting in $1.5 million? I would like to know, because you know how I am. If they want to do this, it's private enterprise. Let them pay for it. Okay, some are skeptical that the highway would be moved without more coal commitment to mine. Let's see. One who worked at the mine for 17 years and is now representative of District 22 of the United Mine Workers in Price, Utah, said he didn't envision the highway getting moved unless the coal owner locks down long-term contracts. He said that would be horrible news to do all of that and not have the contract to do it. But anyway, that's what they're intending to do. I heard this story. I read this story. I'm looking at it, and I'm thinking, well, that's really good news for that whole area to go after coal for a couple of different reasons, not just power generation. But there's a lot of trona in the area and the ammonia and so on and so on. So that works out really great for business in all sorts of different ways. That's your economy at work. This is nothing but good news. That's jobs, that's energy and trona and so much more that we need out of the area. Now, I'm just waiting for the lawsuits. I'm not trying to jinx anything. I'm waiting for the lawsuits. You're going to go digging for coal? Yeah, it's kind of what we do here in Wyoming. It's our thing.
Almond milk? Who bought almond milk? That's not a thing, is it? I mean, you can't get milk from almonds. Almonds don't even have udder.
Yep, there you have it. A new level of crazy. And you heard it here first. Live and local, all across Wyoming. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on K2 Radio. Join in at 888-97-WOODS or the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app.
7:20 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. All right, 888-97-WOODS, the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. So now, I'm not a board game player. I tried. Monopoly, stuff like that. I tried different board games, and I just didn't care. Much like I don't follow sports because I just don't care. I tried to care. I don't. I came across this headline for those who like board games. Generation Z is now ruining Scrabble. And I know kids, and well, just adults as well, that love Scrabble. In fact, there's online versions of it. You can play with an app on your phone. All right, so the story says Scrabble, like Monopoly, chess, poker, brings out the killer instinct in us all. The baddest predators block and fight and win, and they love to. And then we love to razz people who win and lose, right? Gen Z, though, is filled with a bunch of socialists who believe that competition is the next worst thing to well, colonialism. So Mattel is dumbing down the game to appeal to people with the attention span of a gnat and competitiveness of a sloth. Not me, not my words. This is the writer of this article. It's a game changer, literally. For the first time in 75 years, Mattel is making a major change to the iconic board game Scrabble and touting no more scoring. So you can play it, but you're not going to keep score. You can't razz anybody. You can't try to beat them. The new launch is a double-sided version of the famous board game. One side with the original game for those who want to stick to the original version of it. The other side, less competitive for those people who are just less competitive about that. Flip side of the classic game is called Scrabble Together, and will help cards use a simpler scoring system. Let's see. I'm heading to Miss Mary plays Scrabble. Miss Mary plays Scrabble. She told me about it. I'm heading to Mattel to protest right now. Sorry, this is important. Oh, no, I believe you. And don't piss off the Mary. Do not piss off the Mary. The author of the article says, I have no words. Stop. Actually, I do have words, he says. But few of them are punishable on, well, I can't say them on the air. So he writes, quote, to the makers of Scrabble that found that younger people, Gen Z, don't quite like the competitive nature of Scrabble. One who co-hosts the language podcast, this is Giles Brandeth, there's a language podcast, Something Rhymes with Purple, on BBC Radio 4. They want a game where you can simply enjoy language and words and being together, and the fun of even maybe trying to create words and so on, but not have to be competitive. Well, some people like being, I don't. Really, if you play a game with me, if you manage to get me to play, and I probably won't, but I don't care if you win or lose, because I'm competitive against myself. I don't watch what other people are doing, but that's me. I still, though, understand the competitive nature, and I would really like Mattel just to leave it alone. That's the purpose of the game, is to be competitive, to beat the snot out of somebody else, and to razz them for it. Okay, so the writer says, perhaps Mattel could suggest TikTok dancers and rants stop and quit dyeing your hair blue. This is what he says. Okay. He says, he writes inclusive. Oh, well, wait a second now. Okay. Start including words like inclusive, 14 points. I suggest triple word score box if you play it. 14 points for pretty weak, although if you use all 17 letters. Now he's getting into Scrabble analogies that I don't understand because I don't play the game. So soon we'll have a DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion version of the game with various pronoun options and updated dictionaries. Now here's something that gets me. You know, I've talked about this before. We have a problem with language. The dictionary was designed, when it came to words, to hold the line. We used to have a problem with language where people would spell a word the way they thought they heard it, and a word meant what they thought they heard it meant. And so we had a problem with spelling and definitions of words because there was no guide. Then somebody thought to invent the dictionary. And the dictionary's purpose was to hold the line. A word meant what it meant. If you want to know what the word meant and how to spell it, how to use it in a sentence, how to pronounce it, that was the dictionary, and it was to hold the line. But the dictionary doesn't do that anymore. Now when people start to misspell or mispronounce or misuse a word, they just add it to the dictionary, which I often kind of wondered, and what does that do to Scrabble now? Rhiannon for danger. Oh, I thought they think Scrabble is racist now. Well, it depends. What kind of words are you using? You certainly could make it that way. Here's from Miss Mary again, who plays Scrabble. She likes Scrabble. Make your own collaborative word game and leave mine alone. If I can't let out my competitive energy in Scrabble, what will that mean for the world? this could be dangerous. Yes, Miss Mary needs to vent now and then. She is, in person, just about the calmest, sweetest person you'd ever meet, which is dangerous, as you know, because that makes her a ticking time bomb. Yeah, she doesn't vent out loud and really get angry and so on. And so that means she's a ticking time bomb. So she needs an outlet to vent. And one of the ways to do that is with a harmless game of Scrabble, where she can sit down and play somebody else and get competitive and beat the snot out of them and then razz that person because she beat the snot out of them. And I think that's also what happens if they start doing this to poker? Yeah, which is a very competitive game, right? Pick some other game that you really like, a board game that you really like, where I one time invented a game. I never did anything with it. I invented a game called Divorce the Board Game, where the whole point of the board game is to take the other person's stuff and be as mean as possible. Jim and Laramie. Gen Z is very competitive, and they don't even realize it. They're always competing to see who can be most woke, diverse, and inclusive. Yeah, that's about right. But Gen Z would also be about the most hypocritical when it comes to that as well. But can you imagine playing, and this does happen, you ever play, for those who do play board games, you ever play with someone who, when they lose poorly, and they get mad? They're sore losers. I think one of the purposes of these games, to be serious for a minute, one of the purposes of these games is not just to teach strategy and how to win, but also to teach people how to lose. One of the things that I love to see most of all, when somebody loses, let's say in high school, and they lose a baseball game, they go over and congratulate the winning team on playing so well. That's part of what they're taught at a very early age, which is one of the reasons why I'm not into sports, but I understand teaching sports to kids, because it teaches that competitive spirit, how to work hard and how to win and better yourself, but also how to be a gracious winner and a gracious loser. Coming up on some local news that we have to take care of right after local news update on the weather forecast. 7:45, I'll talk to Don Day about the weather forecast, which the rest of this week is really nice. It's next week that's questionable. We'll talk to him about that. So wake up, Wyoming.
Sunday. Serious takes on local politics, or something like that. Tune in weekdays 6 to 10 a.m. to Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
.36 the time, Wake Up Wyoming. All right, so real quick, for those just joining me, I'm going to wrap this up. So I was talking about the game of Scrabble. How the game of Scrabble, you're going to, when you buy the game from now on, and I know a lot of people just download the game online, but if you buy the board game, there's going to be a side 2 if you want to play the non-competitive version of it. Well, part of the point of games like this is for people who like being competitive. That's a big part of it. But it reminds me, and I was just telling Miss Mary this, when I was at a T-ball game. I mean, not baseball, T-ball, little kids. And so nobody's keeping score. But I'm listening to the parents in the stands. And they flat out say, oh, we all know what the score is here. I mean, they were complaining about this absolute garbage of not keeping score. Because all of the parents up in the stands know what the score is. They're watching and keeping score. So, all right. 115 sheep reported stolen from northeast Wyoming ranches. Really? 2 Campbell County sheep herders reported more than 100 sheep stolen in recent days. A 67-year-old man called the Campbell County Sheriff's Department Monday to report that sometime between the start of the year, Monday afternoon, 40 sheep vanished from a herd on South Highway 59 at Wright, and Wyoming Undersheriff told Cowboy State Daily on Tuesday. The 40 sheep presented a financial loss of about $11,000. He believed the sheep were stolen and did not have any suspects in mind. 4 days earlier, another sheep rancher, a 69-year-old man, told authorities he was concerned 75 sheep had been taken from his ranch, Edward Road in Wright. So that same area there, right? They were last seen late 2023, but the man said he believes someone stole them this year. He said he had no indication of how or what happened and has no suspects in mind. Those 75 sheep were branded on the center of their backs with a 7K brand, and their left ears were cropped. Investigators have alerted the Wyoming State Brand Inspector to take a look. So a similar report emerged from Campbell County last July when a rancher reported 70 yearling ewes missing from his ranch. But the rancher, Guy Edwards is his name, said he found tire tracks in the pasture and other evidence of the theft. So it doesn't take much effort with someone with a good herding dog and a livestock trailer to scoop up a bunch of sheep and make off with them. Does not at all. Then you just got to take them someplace where no one's really looking for them. Maybe, I would guess, far enough away. I don't know. The executive vice president of Wyoming Stockgrowers Association, longtime sheep rancher himself, says sheep thefts do happen in Wyoming, though they're not necessarily on the rise. And near Wright, the sheep tend to be more confined within fences and fenced-in pastures, really, which make them easier to keep track of, but also means someone isn't with them constantly. So in other words, he's saying stealing sheep is not all that difficult. In his operations in Sweetwater and Sublette County, 15 to 20 sheep would go missing from time to time, but the pastures were so vast a lot of times they're trying to take a head count, and there's just a few loners out there wandering around. Operations in Sweetwater and Sublette County is where that was. He said he lost 75 sheep, and it complicates the process. Well, that means probably theft if it's that many. It would take multiple trips to load that many sheep, he says. I'm glad he said that because I would never know that. But apparently if you're going to load that many sheep, this takes a little bit of planning. And again, we're talking such vast areas, people cannot be out there all the time watching their sheep. South Dakota and Nebraska both require brands in the western portion of the states, but not in the eastern portion. So with sheep or cattle, if you take a route where you don't have to stop at a port of entry, which is places do that obviously, or something, and load them up, get halfway through South Dakota, you're home free, he said. So a little bit of planning can go a long way, apparently. So for those people in that part of Campbell County, up in that area, if you have, I'm not just going to say sheep, but livestock. Because I remember a few years ago, I was reporting about some cattle that had been stolen in Colorado, and it was not a small number. It was not like somebody got out there and sold 1 or 2 cows. It was a pretty large number. That was a few years back. So this still happens to this day. You think about the days of the Old West. Oh, well, that was way back then. Still happens to this day. But instead of cowboys riding out there, now they drive out there with trailers. They just have to think of the route on the way back. So do it when nobody's looking and make sure to take the route where they're not going to get caught.
Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me 3 times, and you're pretty good at this, and I can respect that.
Admit it, you were hoping somebody would say that. Polish off that tin hat. You'll need it for this one. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. Available on demand on the Wake Up Wyoming app.
7:45 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Off we go to talk to Don Day from Day Weather. Don, slight rain and snow mix where I'm at.
Yeah, it's spotty across the state, but there are some showers out there. But this is the most excitement we're going to have for a while.
Oh, okay. Well, gosh, now you're just making my whole weekend sound boring, if that's the most excitement I'm going to have for a while. But it's going to be nice out, though. I mean, we hit a point where this is get outside and do stuff weather.
It really is, and it's a far cry from where we were last weekend, that's for sure. The most unsettled days today with this little wave coming through. So some of you will experience a rain or snow shower. Some of you won't. They're not real big. They're spotty, but they'll be around. But once we get into tonight, high pressure starts to build in. Tomorrow is an in-between day between that system that's overhead now moving out, high pressure moving in. And if you look down at temperatures in the southwest United States right now and expected high temperatures, you're starting to see highs in the 80s and lower 90s now getting into southern Arizona. And with the high pressure ridge coming over the Rockies this weekend, the winds aloft come up out of the southwest. So the air from the desert states gets pushed towards us. So we're looking at 60s, some 70s coming. You're really going to notice it warming up Friday. Tomorrow will be warmer, but not a lot. But for Friday through Sunday, those 3 days will be very, very mild.
A lot of times warm up means wind. Does that happen?
Yeah, some.
Okay.
I mean, after what we went through this past weekend, any kind of wind is just kind of not even worth mentioning.
Yeah, right. When you peak out at 90 miles an hour, what's 60? Psh, no big deal. Okay. Now, but we're still watching. It doesn't look anything really horrible, but still things might come together for some different weather next week.
Yeah, Sunday night into Monday, we'll have a low come off the California coast. It's going to replace the high pressure ridge. So next week, we are going to have cooler weather. I think there's a good chance of rain and snow on the plains, some snow in the high country with two systems, one coming in Monday, another one coming in late Wednesday into Thursday. So we will see the weather pendulum go back the other way, as you'd expect this time of year.
Which is great news because these are the same areas that I've been saying before, needs the wet, so let it come.
Yeah, you need wet in April and May. It's hard to complain when it's wet this time of year. You really shouldn't. You want it. But it's really nice if we can get wet after several days of it being really nice. Okay. So really quite a good forecast, really.
All right. Thank you, Don. Don Day with day weather. And I would say, keep an eye out for those. At some point, the flowers start to bloom across Wyoming. That's just going to look, incredible this year with the amount of wet that a lot of these areas have been getting. So let's head on over to the icebox. Frank Gambino is waiting by. Okay, Frank, your thoughts on this. We're going to go to a high school baseball game, right?
Okay, I'm ready.
Where there's a young player who's very talented.
Okay.
When he steps up to hit at the plate, he switches sides every time he swings.
So he's right-handed for one swing,
yes,
then left-handed for the other,
right,
and then goes back to right-handed. I wonder if that's even legal.
That's the question.
I thought that once that pitch count started, that you had to stay there for the entire at-bat. I could be wrong, but that's what I thought the ruling was. Okay. Now, there's also been pitchers who can throw left-handed or right-handed, but I don't think they can switch either. Like during a certain at-bat. After the next guy, if you're pitching right-handed to, me, and then they'll pitch left-handed to you, but I don't think you can go back and forth during the same at-bat.
Wouldn't it be interesting if you got a pitcher that could switch and a batter that could switch, and we get to watch them go back and forth and try to fool each other?
It would take forever.
Yeah, that's right.
It would take forever. Yeah, and they'd be going back and forth, and everyone be in the crowd going, "Well, you at least throw the ball and get in the box and get in there and be ready."
Well, this is the debate now. This is happening at a high school in Japan.
Oh, well, their rules are different.
Your rules are different. I kind of figured I would have to get into that. It's not an American thing, but still.
It may not be different, but it's different. Different in a few ways, but I don't know why they're allowing that.
So
but that's
why switch hitting like that? Why is that considered bad?
Well, it's actually for the hitter's advantage. If he thinks he can hit left-handed against a right-handed guy,
right?
That's to his advantage. Then he's like, well, maybe I can hit this guy hitting left-handed. I'm going to go right-handed now.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Okay, because I figure
it's a different game. It's the same game, but a different game over there.
See, I figured advantages like that were good. I mean, even from the pitcher's point of view.
Not for the pitcher's point of view, for the hitter's point of view.
But no, from the pitcher's point of view, if the pitcher looked at the hitter and thought, if I switch, I have a better chance of striking this guy out.
Right, yeah, but he's got to decide that before they start the at-bat.
Okay.
Now, this guy's going back and forth. I'm like, oh.
Yes, here we go again here. Well, and also get it right the first time, will you, pal? You shouldn't be up there for like 3 or 4 swings. Hit it right the first time and you're probably good.
Decisions are hard to make in life nowadays.
Are they? I don't have any problem with that whatsoever.
I struggle with it every single day.
Yeah.
I second guess myself.
I don't.
And this hitter is second guessing himself. Saying, what am I doing here?
Frank, I wrote a book called The Uncomplicated Life, and I explained.
You don't even live to your own book?
No, I do. I put in my head a buzzer. So let's say I'm at the grocery store and I can't decide what kind of peanut butter I want. I have so many seconds to decide, and then I hear in my head, that one. Where would you like to eat dinner tonight? Nobody can decide. We're going here. See what I'm looking at the menu. What do I want to eat tonight? I can't decide. That.
I didn't know there was a time limit.
I put it in my head.
Okay, I'll buy that one. High school golf, the spring season has arrived, and it's just a matter of the weather getting events in, and state titles in high school golf are decided in the fall, but the spring season provides great experience. Douglas hosted a big event back on Friday. On the girls' side, Natrona took first, Campbell County second, and Torrington third. NC's Maggie Teague and Bailey Watson took first, each shooting rounds of 85. On the boys' side in that Douglas event, Wheatland was first, Kelly Walsh second, and Cheyenne East third. Daniel Meyer of East and Isaac Smith of Kelly Walsh led the way, carding 74s. In boys' high school soccer from yesterday, Kelly Walsh beat Riverton 4-0 to improve the 5-2 on the year. The season is moving along quickly, and in the 4A boys standings as of right now, Cheyenne Central is 6-0, Cheyenne East 4-2, Laramie 4-1-1, Natrona 1-4-1, and Cheyenne East 1-5. In girls high school soccer from last night, defending 4A champion Kelly Walsh got to 4-1-2 with a 3-0 win over Riverton. In the 4A standings, Laramie's 4-2, East 3-2-1, Cheyenne Central and Cheyenne South are 2-4, and Natrona is 1-2-3. Wyoming Cowboy football team cruising along with spring practices in Laramie. They did one yesterday. That was 7 out of 15. Normally speaking, starting jobs are not won or lost in the spring, but it's a great evaluation period. And the Pokes will have another open practice this Saturday at War Memorial Stadium at 10:15 in the morning, open to the public. And, under head coach Craig Bowl, we didn't have practices that were open to the public. The annual spring game will be Saturday, April the 27th at Cheyenne East High School. Major League Baseball, the Colorado Rockies dropped a tough 3-2 decision to the Arizona Diamondbacks last night in Denver. Elias Diaz of the Rockies with a nice game, 2 for 4 at the plate with an RBI, and pitcher Cal Quintrell threw 6 innings, giving up 8 hits, 3 earned runs, and struck out 6. Those two teams will wrap up that series this afternoon in Denver. National Hockey League, the regular season concluding soon. The Colorado Avalanche beat Minnesota last night 5-2 thanks to a hat trick from Nathan McKinnon. So they're 49-24-6. Colorado second in the Western Conference with 104 points. They trail Dallas by 5 points for first place in the West with 3 regular season games to play.
Well, hockey season better conclude soon. The ice is going to melt.
Well, no. You'd be amazed. The refrigeration works.
Oh, yeah.
And then when they get to the playoffs, which is to be next week, nobody shaves until they are eliminated.
One of those, okay. And do they keep track of how many teeth are lost during the course
I'm sure they do. Everyone, they probably got the team dentist and go to Dr. Woods, and he'll fill you in.
Get another false tooth put in there.
Yeah.
At least you can whistle better now.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, all right. Thank you, Frank. Coming up on some local business we have to take care of. We're going to roll into news time after that. National local update on weather forecast. Open phones. Next out. Wake up, Wyoming. 8:06 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. It's a Wednesday, so over the hump we go.
Today's show is sponsored by Armpit Hair Dye. Because waving goodbye should be more colorful.
There's actually people who love to grow, men and women, their armpit hair and dye them wonderful colors so they can show you. Hey, if that's what you're into, fine by me. So we've reached the most dangerous time of every day's program. That's open phones.
Warning. Wake Up Wyoming is about to enter daily open phones. This means that anyone will be allowed to call in and talk about anything. I mean, imagine if we actually allowed you on air to say anything you wanted. Scary, right? Well, we're just that brand of crazy. If you are offended by what other people think, then maybe you want to tune out right about now. Just saying. If you should choose to call, just remember, the more funny and interesting you are, the longer Glenn will keep you on the line. Obnoxious jerks will be hung up on. Dave, all right, strap in. and let's do this thing.
888-97 Woods, the phone number, 888-97-WOODS. You can talk about what I'm talking about, change the subject, fine by me. A couple of stories I just want to get out of the way. First off, the State Department has a Department of Diversity chief, which, again, if I could, that would just get eliminated. In government positions, in universities, in anything that has to do with private business, we would just get rid of that position. And I can get into why if you like, but okay. This State Department diversity chief believes the U.S. is a failed historic model with a colonializing past. See, this is part of what I'm dealing with here, what you and I are dealing with. Story says Biden administration's new State Department diversity chief previously called America a failed historic model. Really? America is a failed historic model. We are. Considering how much we have achieved for the world, including freedom for everybody, and demanded the destruction of the tradition at every juncture on the altar of anarchism. Okay. The Secretary of State last week appointed this person, Johnson is her name, and their Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer. Blinken touted her for being an expert and has a fresh perspective on how to build the workforce that reflects America. Well, she doesn't know what reflects America because she thinks America is a failed historic model, which means she doesn't understand our history. And yeah, we made some mistakes and went through a lot to get to where we were. I was about to say where we are. Where we were, but where we were is being destroyed by people like her. All right, next story for you. I was listening to this yesterday with great interest. You've heard me from time to time talk about National Public Radio, National Public Television, and Wyoming Public Media, too. And one of the things I've noticed is over the years, they've gotten more and more and more leftist. They've never been fair and balanced, but they've gotten far more and more and more leftist. Well, remember, for those who were around to remember, the controversy with Juan Williams on Fox News. Juan Williams was a Fox News contributor, but mostly he worked for National Public Radio and Television as a commentator. And one day, this is after 9/11, he wrote an article where he said, I have to admit, after 9/11, when I walk into an airport and I see someone dressed in Arab garb or they're speaking Arabic, I get a little nervous. And he goes on to say how we need to deal with that as Americans. And because of that, public radio and television fired him. Well, he was welcomed with open arms at Fox News, because Fox News, despite their flaws, which they do have, they do at least bring in a diversity of opinion. And Juan Williams, even though his opinion drives a lot of us nuts, is a decent man. Well, okay. Fox News senior political analysis, Juan Williams, veteran NPR editor, gave a lengthy rebuke of the employer's media coverage of major news stories over the years, the story says. Blew the whistle. Now, this is a veteran. Let me go back to say who I'm talking about here. A veteran NPR editor, Yuri Berliner, I think is how you pronounce his name, gave a lengthy rebuke of his own media outlet, NPR and PBS. Blew the whistle on the outlet's coverage of voter registration records, which depicted 87-0 Democrats. In other words, when you take a look, when you go to NPR headquarters in Washington, D.C., there's 87 people working there, and all of them are very liberal Democrat. Not just Democrat, very liberal Democrat. And he told them flat out that it affects their viewpoint. If you want to talk diversity, let's talk diversity. There is none here. And he said what happened was worse than if they got angry. They just thought it was perfectly fine. It was no big deal, and it should be that way. Juan Williams suggested he was not surprised at the comments of open-mindedness no longer existing at NPR. So I was watching last night. Someone showed me the Ingram angle, which I don't normally watch any of those programs, but in the aftermath of his firing a decade ago. is when that happened, after the September 11th attacks. He talked about intolerance back then, and now even more so than ever before. So this goes back to something. In fact, I had another article on this morning, how when it comes to National Public Radio and Television, and even Wyoming Public Radio, when it came to covering President Trump, you can imagine the hardcore negative coverage that they've given him, and if anything positive comes along, they won't report it. If a story like Russian collusion turns out to be a hoax, which it was, they'll report it while it's happening until it's determined to be a hoax, and then they just shut up about it. And never did any stories about, oh, sorry, folks, we had this story wrong all of this time. Another one of the stories I had on this is Insider confirms leftist bigotry at NPR. Story says it's refreshing to hear NPR Insider admit that they're veering so far to the left and narratives have been destroyed by a taxpayer subsidy media. Let's take a look at where NPR and PBS came from. There was a time when places like this out west, there wasn't much out here for TV stations, radio stations, or newspapers. So where were we going to get our news from? So the government set up National Public Radio and Television to make sure that you could get your news in areas that didn't have enough of really anybody out here, enough of a population to support media outlets. So that's where it got its start from. So it was government-supported radio and television, so people who live way out west and in the Midwest as well could get access to media. Now, do we need that anymore today? We don't, honestly. And public radio and public television, now they've reached the point where you might have heard of the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. They've reached the point now where they make enough money off of donations and other such things that your taxpayer dollar is really only a small percentage of the money they take in. But try to shut off that money. It's been tried in the past, and listen to the yelling and screaming going on. I'm okay with the existence of public radio and public television, although I would take away any taxpayer funding and just flat out say to them, sink or swim. You guys want to exist and you want to be a leftist organization, go do it on your own dime. Whether you raise money through donations or you go commercial, whatever the case is, it's up to you to survive, because we can certainly do it without you. We don't need you. Not with today's media, not with the internet, satellite, things like that, not necessary. Let's wake up Wyoming.
I'm usually not one to brag about expensive trips that I take, but I just got back from the grocery store.
It's Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on AM 1030 K2 Radio. Join the show at 888-97-WOODS.
8:20 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. All right, it is open phone, so 888-97-WOODS phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. Now, I'm going to do something that I did in the 6 o'clock hour, like right out of the gate, first thing this morning, but I know a lot of you weren't up then, so I'm going to play this for you. Caution. This is going to hurt your brain. Some of you have already heard this, but all right, this is going to hurt. So, Monday, of course, was the eclipse. Now, we have some really just dumb people in Congress. At first, I thought, is the dumbest person in Congress like Bernie Sanders? Because he's really bad. No. Okay. Who else then? Well, I mean, Joe Biden was in the Senate. He was horrible. I mean, just horribly stupid. Was that the dumbest person? No. Ocasio-Cortez, is she the dumbest person? I mean, that's really hitting a low. No. Who would you think is the dumbest person in Congress? Ladies and gentlemen, speaking on the eclipse to a bunch of high school kids, I give you Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee.
In the direction smaller than the sun, and the sun went in a direction, and then the earth. Now those provide unique light and energy so that you have the energy of the moon at night. And sometimes you've heard the word full moon. And sometimes you need to take the opportunity just to come out and see a full moon is that complete rounded circle, which is made up mostly of gases. The question is why or how could we as humans live on the moon? Are the gases such that we could do that? The sun is a mighty powerful heat, but it's almost impossible to go near the sun. The moon is more manageable. What you will see today will be the closest distance that the moon has ever been in the last 20 years, which means that's why they will shut the light down, because they will be close to the earth, that everything will be shut out. Now, we don't have any animals around here to be able to, maybe we'll hear some dogs barking, how they are impacted. And Dr. Simmons, I didn't go too far away from the scientific explanation. Is that correct, hopefully? All right, so I was near it. The solar system is bigger than us, though there are solar systems and there are systems that are smaller than the Earth. Still, we're in a solar system, and we depend on the Earth, the moon, and the sun. That is our existence. We have yet to know whether you can live on the moon. But I don't know about you. I want to be first in line to know how to live and to be able to survive on the moon. That's another planet, which you're going to see shortly.
So the moon is another gas planet, and it's never been this close in 20 years. And it's almost impossible to get close to the sun? Okay. Does your brain hurt? Yeah. This is a woman who has been in Congress for a very long time. She makes very important decisions with her vote. And people keep voting her into office to make very important decisions on all sorts of major issues. And since she was talking about the moon and gases and things like this, I mean, that would even be decisions on climate change, your budget, how much money to spend, how in debt the country is. This is who keeps getting elected to represent her district in Congress. Now, I listened to that. I put it together this morning, grabbed that quote for you, and it hurt to listen to it. And I played it now second time this morning, and it hurts to listen to. It really does. My brain just, your brain does not have any pain receptors in the brain, inside of it, but I swear she just found one or two, and that really is, it's almost like I want to take an aspirin now. Now, just to torture you a little bit more, let's go back yesterday to The View.
And I have to say, Karen Dupice, our wonderful makeup artist, when the earthquake was happening, she put her coat on, and she was like, Jesus is coming. I'm out. I'm out. I'm leaving. We've got a solar eclipse. We've got the earthquake. She ran down the hallway. The rapture is here. The rapture's here. And then also I learned that the cicadas are coming. Cicadas.
Although I love
for the first time in like 100 years.
No.
Two different. Well, this is what I read. Two different
kinds of cicadas.
Yes, two different times are coming.
The good cicadas and the bad.
But for the first time in many, many years.
No, every 17 years this happens.
Well, that's not what I read, but maybe you know better. But in a way, say all those things together would maybe lead one to believe that either climate change exists.
That's
or something is returning.
Earthquakes are not at the mercy of climate change. It's underground.
It happens. And the eclipse, they've known about the eclipse coming because eclipses happen, and they actually can say when these things are going to happen.
Okay. Again, Al. Okay, I'm going to stop playing this stuff because I know how much that hurts your brain. And you don't want to go to work today feeling dumber, which this will dumb you down. So, all right. Here, I'll help the ladies out on The View. First off, earthquakes happen all over the place, and even in New York, and it's rare, but it does happen. So no big deal there. It has nothing to do with the climate. It happens way, 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 way underground. It has nothing to do with the climate. All right. The eclipse has nothing to do with climate change. In fact, there's on average 2 eclipses a year on planet Earth. But they usually, because the planet's so big, It happens in places where there aren't any people, like over the ocean, the Pacific Ocean, places like that. So it's very rare for it to cross right over the center of the United States because there's so much planet for it to cross. But it does tend to happen about twice a year as eclipse. Not an unusual thing. I don't know why she thinks it's weird. Some people were freaking out over the eclipse. I thought today, as we reached, into modern humanity, I don't understand why people freak out over eclipses. I can understand, like maybe 500 or more years ago, 1,000 years ago, an eclipse happened and people didn't know what was going on. I get it. But today, everybody should know. But, we're talking about people who went for an education in your public schools, so no wonder they don't know anything. Oh, and cicadas, there's two types, primary species of them, and I'm giving you the Reader's Digest version. And they tend to come to maturity about every 17 years, and they make a lot of noise, and then they go ahead and mate, and they drop their larva, which will hang around for about another 17 years. That's about how that works. All right. These two different species of cicadas, every couple hundred years, roughly, they wake up at about the same time, reach maturity at about the same time, which is why this next round is going to be really noisy. That's what's rare. There's nothing unusual. It's nothing bad happening. It has nothing to do with climate change. It has nothing to do with human beings. Dirt Mom is in Riverton. That hurt my brain. And the View ones make it hurt worse. Any of them. Oh, my God, please don't play that again, says Big Red in Hawk Springs. No, I agree. I'm not going to play that again. Think about it this way. I picked that to play for you yesterday and today, and I went ahead and put that together. The only thing I do is I clean up the audio a little bit so it sounds better on air. But I'm not really changing what they say. I'm just cleaning up the audio so it sounds better on air, which means I had to listen to it several times over. Yes, my brain really hurts right now. I mean, damn. I'll do something more fun after this news and information break. So we got local news coming up after local news update on your weather forecast. Then a nice long segment of open phones, 888-97 Woods, 888-97 WOODS. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Got something to say? Call 888-97-WOODS or chat
Douglas,
with Glenn on the Wake Up Wyoming
earthquakes, cicadas, and
K2
clips.
Radio.
Should we be expecting the Four Horsemen? Cheese whiz in a can, man, is what he says. Well, yeah. And yet, these people get their television shows and they become members of Congress. I often wonder how people who are so mindless can get so far. All right, now, question for you parents out there. I thought this was interesting. This is really interesting. Did you know the National Bureau of Economic Research keeps a database on basically the Child Penalty Atlas? I'll explain. In principle, what it tracks is a phenomenon worth measuring. What impacts does a child have on your work habits, your income, other variables, even how much you sleep? Okay. But they only seem to track the negative impacts. One woman named Nancy puts this up on Twitter. I'm still calling it Twitter. I'll get over it maybe someday. And she says, notice that motherhood is described solely in the negative terms of how it hurts everything. No mention of the incredible fulfillment parents feel when they cut back on paid work to have more time to raise their children, and mothers who cut back on paid employment for the same. Yeah, I thought that was really interesting. I can read more into this, but yeah, the paper builds a atlas of child penalties with employment and everything else that you can possibly think of. Not just in America, but across the world. But it's always penalties. They never stop for a moment to think about the good things of not just having a kid, but what marriage does, the good things about marriage and family. They never seem to look at that. It's always the negatives. Just to me, I thought that was really interesting that they don't seem to want to study the positive effects. All right. A couple of other things. I came across some stories this morning when I was digging through stuff to talk to you folks about that had to do with, you want to talk negative effects, the negative effects that are never learned about the minimum wage.
Minimum wage!
Yeah! So let's take a look at some of these things, and I wonder why the lessons are never really learned. First one. Here's an article I found. Liberals love the minimum wage, though it hurts the people liberals love most. I thought that was actually a pretty interesting title for this. Here's what it says. On April 1st, New California $20 per hour minimum wage for fast food workers, remember we talked about that, went into effect. In signing the bill, California Governor Newsom rejected the view that such a wage hike would have on current minimum wage employees. It also hurts teenagers disproportionately. And benefits from fast food jobs that they were getting are now gone. He said that's a romanticized version that doesn't exist. We have an opportunity to reward their contribution and stabilize the industry. Well, as you know, that's not what happened. Every time they've raised the minimum wage, in 2019, New York Times editorial board echoed the theme. They said it's a simplistic view that minimum wage laws cause unemployment and command such a broad consensus in the 1980s that this editorial board came out against the federal minimum wage in 1987, calling it an idea as time has passed. Again, they reject any negative effects. Here's a quote. A groundbreaking study published in 1993 by the economists David Card and Alan Kruger examined the minimum wage rise in New Jersey by comparing fast food restaurants there were in adjacent parts of Pennsylvania and found no impact on employment. Really? Well, hold on. What just happened when we raised the minimum wage in California to $15 an hour and a bunch of people lost their jobs or their hours were cut back? Not just that. What about the people, they just raised the minimum wage in California on April 1st of all dates to $20 an hour, and I gave you several stories of people who just, their companies just closed. Yeah. So we know it does have a negative effect, and yet they're living in a dream world thinking that it doesn't. Now, another story. McDonald's $25 deal goes viral, and users blame California's minimum wage increase. A viral social media video, $25 McDonald's deal, recently sparked online debate about California's minimum wage. A TikTok user who posts videos under the username Shannon Monteplay or something like that shared the video March 27th. She was in a drive-thru in Southern California, McDonald's location, when she saw a sign for a 40-piece chicken McNugget deal, which also includes large fries. The price was $25.39. Big sales tax as well on top of that. In the video, social media user lamented it didn't even include a drink. Okay, so she says $25.39 for a 40-piece nugget, 2 large fries. Couldn't even get a Sprite, something like that, small drink. While the meal is designed to serve 4 people, it demonstrates how fast prices have jumped. Because it wasn't that just before the rise of the minimum wage in California. What McDonald's had to do is raise their prices. 10 years ago, the average price for a 10-meal McNugget was $5.99. Now it's $10.99. The video ended up assessing 2 million views and bringing thousands of TikTok users to the comments section. Remember when a 40-piece nugget was $5 and a large drink was $1, they said? Manager special used to be 40 nuggets and a gallon of tea and a large fry. I spent $48 there yesterday. My jaw hit the floor, one customer wrote. And a lot of the prices that I'm reading right now leaped up to where they are right after they raised the minimum wage. Inevitably, the story says, some social media users pointed out to recent legislation in California that increased the minimum wage to $20 an hour. And by the way, at the same time, there's fewer people working at those McDonald's. What happened? They had to cut employees and raise prices in order to keep up with this. Other users shared their McDonald's stories. Let me see, 50 nuggets for they were from different places. Yeah, okay, so around the country, yeah, prices have gone up. But nobody, like when we get to California, and let's not forget, I told you a story about a California pizza chain that they closed their doors. They had stores all over California, and most of their employees were minimum wage employees. And as soon as California raised the $20 an hour minimum wage, they just closed up shop. And so those people are unemployed now. I wonder, did anyone tell Governor Gavin Newsom about this? Real quick, Buck and Casper said, Glenn, speaking of stupid things Congresswomen may say, AOC, when talking about student loans yesterday, said she couldn't get into medical school because of the money. Imagine AOC walking into your exam room as a doctor. I am so glad. I know I'm with you, Buck. I'm so glad she couldn't find the money to do that. Let's Wake Up Wyoming.
Now, Glenn Woods fits in your pocket with the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. This is AM 1030, K2 Radio.
8:48 is the time. Wake Up Wyoming. Off to the icebox we go. Frank Gambino is waiting by. Frank, this is a story Miss Mary is really going to want to hear.
Okay, then why don't you tell it to Miss Mary first?
Hey, Miss Mary, you're going to want to hear this.
Okay.
Okay, now, she's been warned. And so you're allowed to take pets on airplanes, Frank. You know this, right? People will take
I have
little,
seen it, and they're supposed to be service animals.
Yes, right.
Not pets.
Right, right. So.
And people have been abusing that for a while.
Oh, my Lord, yeah. I should tell you at some point, do you know how I got my rubber chicken here in the studio, Carl?
Did you smuggle it on the airplane? Or?
No, because I got upset that people were abusing what I think is actually a good deal, people who have actual therapeutic animals. I know people who do that, and it actually does help them.
Yeah.
So what I did was, to show how stupid it was, I went and got my rubber chicken Carl registered as an emotional support animal.
And they took it?
They took it, and then I got on airplanes when I went to visit family and took pictures of me on the airplane with them, and I sent it to members of Congress.
Okay.
Supposedly, I don't know if it was because of me, but the law has been changed.
Thank God.
Okay. However, there can be downsides to getting on an airplane with a cute little pooch.
Mm-hmm.
United flight diverts to another airport after dog left a huge deuce right there in the middle of the aisle.
Right in the aisle, yeah.
And it was so bad that they just diverted the airplane and landed somewhere else.
I mean, couldn't the owner just clean it up and say, let's move on here?
They don't have like a plastic bag they can dump it in?
And don't the airlines carry like Ozium or something so they can get the smell out? Or
does somebody have a bottle of deodorant in their bag?
Anything.
They can spray that around the room. But no,
let's divert the flight
to an entirely different airport. Yeah. United Airlines flight bound for Seattle had to divert to Dallas on Friday because of a literal storm. The dog pooped at somewhere between the stinky poo. It was so stinky and messy that everybody on board was just going, The dog had that messy accident right in the aisle in first class.
Oh, now you're talking. No wonder they diverted the plane.
Yes.
If it had been in coach, they'd have kept going. All righty, in Major League Baseball, the Colorado Rockies dropped a tough 3-2 decision to Arizona last night in Denver. Elias Diaz of the Rockies went 2 for 4 with an RBI, and pitcher Cal Quantrill went 6 innings. He gave up 8 hits, 3 earned runs, and struck out 6. Those two teams will wrap up that series this afternoon. Boys high school soccer from yesterday, Kelly Walsh over Riverton 4-0 to improve the 5-2 on the year. Season moving along quickly in the 4A boys standings as of right now. Cheyenne Central is 6-0, Cheyenne East 4-2, Laramie 4-1-1, Natrona 1-4-1, and Cheyenne South 1-5. In girls high school soccer from last night, defending 4A champion Kelly Walsh beat Riverton 3-0, so they are 4-1-2 on the year. In the 4A standings, Laramie's 4-2, East is 3-2-1, Cheyenne Central and Cheyenne South are 2-4. And the Natrona's 1, 2, and 3. High school golf, the spring season has arrived. Just a matter of the weather getting events in. State titles in high school golf are decided in the fall, but the spring season provides some great experience. Douglas hosted a big event on Friday on the girls' side. Natrona took first, Campbell County second, Torrington third. NC's Maggie Teague and Bailey Watson took first, each shooting rounds of 85. On the boys' side in that Douglas meet, Wheatland first, Kelly Walsh second, and Cheyenne East third. Daniel Meyer of East and Isaac Schmidt of KW led the way, carding 74s. Wyoming Cowboy football team cruising along with spring practices in Laramie. They had one yesterday. Now, normally speaking, starting jobs aren't won or lost in the spring, but it's a great evaluating period, especially for new head coach Jay Sawvell. And the Cowboys will have an open practice this Saturday at War Memorial Stadium at 10:15 a.m. And under head coach Craig Boyle, you just didn't have practices that were open to the public. The annual spring game will be Saturday, April 27th at Cheyenne East High School. National Hockey League, the Colorado Avalanche beat Minnesota last night 5-2. The Avs got a hat trick from Nathan McKinnon to improve the 49-24-6. Colorado is second in the Western Conference with 104 points, and they trail Dallas by 5 points in the West with 3 regular season games to play. That's it in sports.
So it kind of makes you wonder who had to go pick up the phone and call the cockpit and say, "Hey, look, it's really bad back here.
We need to land."
And of course, the captain would say, "Well, just clean it up. You got to be kidding me." But no, it's so bad, Captain. Honestly, because the oxygen masks have just dropped.
Oh, well, that is a bad sign.
Yeah. I don't know that happened, Frank, but it should have.
Well, you said it. Yeah. If this happened in first class,
yes,
that's why the plane landed.
That's exactly right.
If it was in the back of the plane and coach, we're moving on.
Coach smells like that anyway.
Yeah, kind of.
Okay. Especially coach on a Greyhound.
Yeah, pretty cool.
All right, thank you, Frank. Coming up on some, I ought to know, I fly coach. Coming up on some local business we got to take care of. Update on your weather forecast. More open phones. Wake Up Wyoming. 9:06 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. Real quick before I get into this next segment here. For those who are new to the program, and it's because this program is heard on multiple stations across the region, and people are joining all the time, which is good. You might hear me sometimes talking to someone, but you didn't hear anyone in the room. Okay, it is true. I sit in a padded room, and I talk to myself. It's a radio studio, so it's a padded room. I sit in a padded room, and I talk to myself, and you are the voices in my head. Now, some of those voices come over the phone, 888-97-WOODS. You can do that. Other people use the Wake Up Wyoming app. They download the app for free at their app store. It's got a lot of options on it. We don't charge you for anything. One of the options, you can listen to this program as a podcast after it's over. Doesn't cost you a thing. The other option, while I'm on the air, hit the chat button and send me text messages. And I answer back, both on the air and off the air. So that's who I'm talking to. And then sometimes, well, I've just lost my mind a long time ago, so obviously.
Today's show is sponsored by Armpit Hair Dye. Because waving goodbye should be more colorful.
888-97-WOODS is a phone number. It is open phones. You can change the subject if you want. Fine by me.
Warning, this show contains reference to guns, liberty, limited government, low taxation, the cult of climate change, free thinking, cigar smoking, short people, rubber chickens, Karen's bureaucracy, liberal buzzwords, tour runs, traffic, toilets, terrible jokes, and more. No apologies will be issued. Guest callers may express any opinion they want without fear of being canceled. Unless you're a loudmouth jerk like Dave, then Glenn will hang up on you. Strap in, hold on to your coffee, and feel free to participate.
This disclaimer does not refer to every person named Dave, just one particular Dave from San Francisco. We know a lot of Daves. They call this show all the time, and they're great people. So don't call this program and complain that we use your name. That would be a real Dave move, Dave. So those people on the hardcore left are finally making the tin hatters. I always picture tin hatters out there. When something is happening that proves them right, their tin hands, it starts to spark with electricity. Imagine someone wearing a tin hat that just starts electrifying and sparking. This is going to be one of those moments. Now, years ago, I started saying I couldn't believe I had to have this conversation with conservatives, but I started pointing out to people, when it comes to contrails, there is no such thing as chemtrails. And I would point out that World War II, when we started flying high-altitude bombers, which were piston engines, as they got way up in the atmosphere, they left contrails. It's what happens when a hot engine compresses air in a cold sky, especially a cold, moist sky. And yes, those trails can get bigger or smaller or disappear right away. Depends on the moisture in the atmosphere. But there were people who were convinced that all of a sudden our government was spraying us. Well, no, they weren't. Hang on, I'm going somewhere with this. Then states like Wyoming started doing things like cloud seeding to try to get more rain out of the cloud. I've actually had a discussion with the gentleman in Wyoming who's in charge of that program, and he doesn't know if it works or not. But they keep doing it. Wyoming keeps spending money on cloud seeding, hoping to squeeze every drop of water out of clouds, having no idea whether the program works or not. And if you don't know whether it works or not, my opinion is stop doing it. But I still went back to say, so you know. When you look up into the sky and you see those streaks from the jets, that's cold, moist air being sucked into a hot engine, being compressed and sent out the other side, and that's what makes the trails. It's natural. Well, natural plus the jet engine. Okay, but then there's this. Here comes the cult of climate change, and you tin hatters out there, put your tin hats on because they're about to start sparkling with electricity. Scientists just test-fired a cloud device over American soil with the ultimate aim of blocking the sunlight. And here we go. The USS Hornet, the story says, may be decommissioned aircraft carrier, yet it has nevertheless become a launch for a controversial new war in the sky, the Marine Cloud Brighton Program, Coastal Atmospheric Aerosol Research and Engagement Project, led by researchers at the University of Washington. They took to the deck of the Hornet on Tuesday to launch a stream of particles into the sky above San Francisco Bay. Well, what a perfect place to do that. Their ultimate objective apparently is to block and reflect sunlight in hopes of limiting global warming. The research behind the geoengineering scheme is, they opted not to announce their experiment, reportedly citing concerns that there might be a significant backlash. I can think of a lot of backlash. For example, why would you want plants to have less sunlight? You already want plants to have less CO2, which will kill them because they need CO2. Plants should be getting more CO2, not less. Now you also want to limit their sunlight. And then what are you going to do when your solar panels don't get enough sunlight, too? But all right. After all, the story says, the American public at the very least, the residents of that area, might first want to hear from the hundreds of scientists who have called for a non-use agreement of solar radiation management and stated in an open letter that the risk of solar geoengineering are poorly understood, not known at all. So while these people are trying to figure out, well, will it work? Can we block sunlight? The question has not been asked by them, should you block sunlight? Should we really try to geoengineer when we don't understand most of how the atmosphere works in the first place? So the experiment, clouds bounce some of the sun's rays back into space. In fact, do you know what the number one greenhouse gas really is? If you said water vapor, you're correct. CO2 is a trace gas that barely holds back any heat. The number one greenhouse gas is water vapor, clouds. University of Washington Department of Atmospheric Science conceded that organic fuel emissions, they say fossil fuel, but that's not correct, and other human activities have long generated aerosols in the atmosphere that mix with low cloud altitudes, causing them to brighten and reflect more sunlight, having a cooling effect on the Earth's climate. Really a cooling effect. I think most people are aware that there's a greenhouse gas effect that warms the client, said the director, talking to the Weather Channel. But what most people aren't aware of is that particles that were also being produced, adding to the atmosphere, offset some of that climate warming. Well, here's a thought. If that's the case, they're saying, yeah, but we burn coal, and that helps to cool the planet some because of the emissions. Good. Burn more coal. We need the CO2, and you're admitting that it cools things down. But all right. With climate alarmist concerns over supposed global temperatures increasing and the correspondence of their war on what they call fossil fuels, they want to rob clouds of the contributing factor by making them brighter so they reflect more sunlight. And Robert Wood, lead UW scientist running the cloud project, noted on his university blog, the team at the facility, cloud aerosol research is what they're doing. The device, which has multiple nozzles and resembles a snowmaker, can apparently fire trillions of salt particles into the air. The university indicated that once emitted, such particles will only remain airborne in the atmosphere for maybe a couple of days. He told the San Francisco Chronicle simulations of the project so that 50% of the Earth's marine clouds were artificially brightened. The globe would cool by approximately 1 degree. Now, they did that by building some computer model, which we know their computer models have not been all that great. Quote, every year we have new records of climate change. No, we don't. Stop right there. No, we don't. The Earth has not significantly warmed in a very long period of time. Your sea levels are not rising rapidly out of control. But anyway, we've had record heat waves. No, we haven't. Even ones, okay, he talks about records that don't exist, but okay. In addition to noting that and other forms of solar radiation they may modify, ultimately accomplish little in the way of lowering global temperatures, they say. In May of 2023, the report said modeling studies of marine clouds have suggested it could alter the precipitation patterns in regional levels. So this is what some of the critics say. So you want to go ahead and alter clouds, but what's that going to do to rain, for example? You don't, in other words, this goes on for a while. You get the idea. You don't know what the consequences would be. You honestly don't. You want to try this. They're experimenting in a very tiny area, but you really don't even know what the consequences. You have some computer model. Well, your computer models have not been great up to now. Dear Lord, these are the, I mean, again, if you are able to block out some of the sunlight that hits planet Earth, then plants begin to suffer, and we limit the CO2 they're getting, and plants suffer even more. And because of that, we suffer. Let's wake up, Wyoming.
Hey, man, you want some chicken pot pie? Hell yeah, dude, those are my 3 favorite things.
Yep, there you have it. A new level of crazy. And you heard it here first. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on K2 Radio. Join the conversation at 888-97-WOODS.
9:23 is the time. Wake Up Wyoming. All right, 888-97 was the phone number. 888-97-WOODS. I know I'm topic hopping, but there's a lot going on that I want to get to. Let's go to Florida real quick. Governor Ron DeSantis signs a law increasing penalties for retail theft and porch pirates. Oh, good. See, this is how you actually handle this. Not defunding the police. All right. Well, if I can here, let's listen to the governor speaking.
In the state of Florida, and so we're not going to put up that either. So today's bills, the bill I'm going to sign, not only cracks down. Okay, I'm trying to play it for you, but that's a little bit quiet. Anyway, we're not going to put up with that. Your package is going to be there. If it's not, someone's going to have hell to pay, said Governor Ron DeSantis. He said today's bill not only cracks down on retail theft, but it also cracks down on porch piracy. So that if you order something and they leave it at your front door, the package is going to be there. And if it's not, somebody's going to have hell to pay for stealing it. Governor says it's pretty much doing the opposite of what states like California and New York have done. It believes that we need to increase penalties on those who are committing these acts. Do you think? Yeah, gosh. You ever sometimes get into a debate with someone, an argument of some kind, and you wonder, am I really having this discussion? Is it really? Seriously? Have we sunk so low that I actually have to have this discussion with this person? All right, well, quote, we will raise, this is the governor of Florida again, we will raise penalties on people that steal packages from your front porch. They are going to be deterred from doing that with adequate penalties. We're also increasing penalties on the so-called retail theft ring. So if you have 5 or more people, you're going to have enhanced penalties as a result of that. Oh, so in other words, when a gang of people walk into a store, grab everything and run, okay, they're not going to be in front of a judge that afternoon and released that afternoon. These are going to be increased penalties. They're going to have to pay for this. He said, we're also going to make it a second-degree felony if you use social media to solicit others to participate in retail theft. Because what you have are these flash mobs that are incited by social media to descend on some stores. And he said, we're going to hold people accountable in a really big way if they commit retail theft with a firearm, or if they already have prior convictions for retail thefts? No, okay. Now, once again, do I really need to have this discussion? It surprises me, really has, when that whole defund the police thing happened. And I thought, exactly what do they believe is going to happen in these very liberal cities if they defund the police? Honestly, what do they think is going to happen? And they wanted to bring in, instead of police, more social workers, stuff like that. So they honestly thought that was going to be better. Well, it hasn't been. And every so often I get another story about another city. And as much as I pick on San Francisco, they have just changed some of their city ordinances against theft, where they're going to try to crack down on crime. They're going to come down harder on crime. It was very surprising to a lot of other liberal cities that, of all places, San Francisco did that. But considering how bad things have gotten, they've really had no choice but to take action and change their ways. Now, not all liberal cities have learned this lesson yet, but just let things get bad enough. This is where I've said before, you've heard that old expression, a conservative is basically a liberal that got mugged. Okay, well, in some cases, you try to tell people, and they don't listen. You try to tell them, and they don't listen. So the best thing to do is step back and just let them do whatever it is that they said they were going to do. Now, when it all goes bad, the first thing that happens is denial. Then they blame everybody else. It's like going through the stages of grief. They don't really want to admit that they made a mistake. But at some point, the situation gets so bad, whether they admit that they've made a mistake or not, they have to start making changes. and more of these cities that started defunding the police will end up having to make these changes. They have no choice. At some point, it'll get so bad, they're going to have to make these changes and do what Governor DeSantis of Florida is doing right now. But that brings me back to, I can't believe that we ever had to have this conversation in the first place, which is why I do like that it was said recently in Cheyenne, Wyoming, when, well, some shoplifting happened there. We don't put up with that in Cheyenne. We deal with people who try to do that in Cheyenne. For a little while, it was difficult getting prosecutors in Cheyenne to actually prosecute a case because they didn't have enough prosecutors, for one thing. But as the crackdown begins, the criminals quickly spread the word that, okay, you'll get in big trouble if you do it here. And also the citizens will take action. So coming up on 9:30, local news coming away right after local news update on the weather forecast. You and I get back into it. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
politician, but his pants are on fire. Could someone grab an extinguisher? Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
9:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. And see, Red and Casper, didn't the robots block out the sun to kill all humans in the Terminator, or was that the Matrix? Actually, you have that a little bit backwards. Okay, I'm talking to Red and Casper now. In the movie The Matrix, it was the robots who were taking over. Artificial intelligence gotten out of hand. And so the humans destroyed the atmosphere to block out the sun, so the machines couldn't get power from the sun. In which case the machines decided to go ahead and take humans because we produce some electricity ourselves and basically use us as batteries. That's how that worked there. Yeah. Okay. So I was just talking about Governor DeSantis and how he's toughening up some laws in Florida on shoplifting, especially gang shoplifting and porch piracy, stuff like that. And I was asking the question, exactly where do you think it goes when you're not tough on crime? That's one of the conversations I've always been surprised that I've had to have with some people. Let's go to Berkeley real quick. Engineer gets probation for premeditated attempted murder. He gets probation for that. Really. An engineer in California has been accused of trying to kill a coworker by poisoning her for more than a year. Berkeley police arrested the man last week, charges of premeditated attempted murder resulting in great bodily injury and 2 counts of felony poisoning, according to jail records. So, first time, and this person became seriously ill with all sorts of symptoms. She believes she might even have cancer. And then it was found, this person's possibly, they were using, water to cook rice and porridge and so on. Okay, it explains how the poisoning was occurring. So, the first time in February, he was apparently manipulating something on her desk around the area of a bottle of water. Camera angle was limited, but then they eventually found some evidence of this. So why put this person on probation? Last month, he made a plea agreement, which he was found guilty of 1 count of poisoning, another count of poisoning, another attempted murder charge, all dropped. Sentence is 2 years probation and a fine which cannot exceed $10,000. Wow. Meanwhile, the victim, working part-time because of ongoing health problems, she estimates she's lost about $460,000 of salary, and who knows what her medical bills are going to be. So that's how we handle criminals today, huh? Okay. Now, on that same note of what did you expect was going to happen? U.S. prosecutor, criminal COVID fraud cases, let me see. There is a case that I do have here that there's one city, San Diego, California, is releasing about 160,000 illegal immigrants into the city, out of their jails, and wherever else they were keeping them. What do you think will happen there? Obviously, right? Okay. Then there's this one. U.S. prosecuted criminal COVID fraud cases totaling $2 billion in losses, according to the Department of Justice. Remember, I told you this when the whole COVID thing started, and your government was turning and saying, okay, we're going to borrow trillions of dollars and send it to businesses and individuals as COVID relief money because you have to stay home. And I'd said at the time, imagine how much fraud there's going to be. Well, we've reached, let me see, there's $2 billion there. Task Force summarized law enforcement efforts to combat pandemic-era fraud, providing further evidence of long-held concerns about how the roughly $5 trillion in pandemic relief was exploited. 2 years ago, New York Times published an interactive chart showing the industry sectors receiving the funds. And let me see. For example, $2 billion in losses associated with criminal pandemic fraud. And that's just the tip of the iceberg there as far as what money was lost. So most of that money just disappeared into the ether and really did nothing to help anyone. Now, again, that's where I go back to, why did we have to have this conversation with people? And I still don't think that they get it. When your government grabs a whole bunch of money and just hands it out like that, there's going to be a lot of fraud and a lot of waste and a lot of abuse, right? And very little will ever be accomplished. And that's what happened with your COVID money. Remember the near $1 trillion that Obama borrowed at the beginning of his term? And much of that disappeared into the ether. Think of all the money going into the so-called green energy business, wind and solar panel and so on, and how much of that money just disappears. Solyndra was one of them, but how much of that money just disappears and we never get anything out of it? Because it's your government just handing out money. And the government is easy to defraud. How often, is my question, do we have to have conversations and scratch like this and have to scratch our heads wondering, why do I have to explain this to them and how come they don't believe me? You would think they would have learned these lessons a long time ago or never would have had to have been taught the lesson because it just makes sense. Don't do this. Yet, we continue to make these same mistakes over and over, and we're not done making these same mistakes over and over again. That's what really kills me on this. Let's Wake Up Wyoming.
This is how you know you've been married too long. So my husband makes me my coffee today, right? And as he's walking out the front door to go to work, he winks at me. I have literally never been so scared to drink anything in my entire life.
Well, that image is going to stick with you all day. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods, on air, online, and on the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. Be part of the show at 888-97-WOODS. This is K2 Radio.
Coming up on 9:48, off to the icebox we go. Frank Gambino waiting by. Frank, every hour at this time, I pride myself on completely wasting your time.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, and
you're very good at it.
I would say, yeah.
And I can't have that time back.
No.
I would like it. There's sometimes I would like the time back, and there's other times, you know what? That was a good waste of time.
Look
I
at
like
this way. You could be actually working, but instead you're having this conversation. So you're welcome.
All right. Okay. Well, give me something else that I don't care about.
Okay. You know that chickens can distinguish between 100 faces?
Can they really?
I don't know who counted how many faces.
Yeah, how do they know that?
Yeah, I don't know.
Unless they paraded 100 people in front of the chicken.
Apparently, chickens can see more colors than human beings can.
Really?
Yeah.
Didn't know that. Did they interview the chicken?
I don't know. I wonder, but because chickens are always looking for food on the ground, maybe that helps them out.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. They make friends and they will grieve.
Chickens will.
Yes.
I've seen chickens attack people also.
I've seen them. They get really angry, too, yeah. But apparently, if you watch chickens, there is literally a pecking order when you go into a barn and find out who's in charge and who's
the main
not.
chicken, yeah.
But they do make friends, and if their friend dies, they grieve.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Now, this is what I really want to know. How do they know this? They can taste salt, but not sweet.
Must be something in the ground.
Okay. Now, this I do believe. They have chicken dreams when they sleep.
Oh.
Now, what do you think a chicken dreams about?
Being fricasseed.
Yeah, that would be okay. Becoming dinner. Yeah. Which is why they wake up with more eggs, because they were afraid to not lay eggs. Yeah. That's why I like the Isaac Asimov book, I, Robot. Do robots have electric dreams? Yes. The world's oldest chicken lived to be, take a guess?
22 years.
16. I thought they lived older than that, but okay.
But really answer the question.
No, 16.
No, say that. But this is the chicken question.
Yeah.
Which crossed the road first?
Oh, well, okay. Now, why did the chicken cross the road?
Yeah.
Now, you're thinking of two questions at once. Which came first, the chicken or the egg?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, so which chicken, did the chicken or the egg cross the road first?
Yeah, well, there you go. That's a better question, yeah. There are more chickens on Earth than humans?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, you should see some of these chicken farms in Georgia.
Oh, my God.
The barns are like blocks long.
If they ever rose up against us, we're screwed.
Oh, they would take over.
They are the cost of living. They're the closest living relatives to the T-Rex, just much smaller.
Chickens.
Yes.
Okay.
In the wild, they navigate using the sun. Okay. They can't sweat, and they can run. Can you guess their speed?
11 miles per hour.
You're not too far off. 9 miles an hour.
All righty then. See, you learn something new every day. Boys high school soccer from yesterday. Kelly Walsh, a winner over Riverton 4-0. So the Trojans are 5-2 on the year, and the season moving along quickly in those 4A boys standings as of right now. Cheyenne Central 6-0, Cheyenne East 4-2, Laramie 4-1-1, Natrona 1-4-1, and Cheyenne South 1-5. In girls soccer from last night, defending 4A champion Kelly Walsh got to 4-1-2 with a 3-0 win over Riverton. Also in the 4A standings, Laramie's 4-2, East 3-2-1, Cheyenne Central and Cheyenne South at 2-4, and the Tronas at 1-2-3. High school golf, the spring season has arrived. It's just a matter of the weather allowing some play. State titles in high school golf are decided in the fall, but the spring season provides some great experience. Douglas hosted a big event back on Friday on the girls' side, and the Trona took first, Campbell County second, and Torrington third. NC's Maggie Teague and Bailey Watson took first, each shooting 85. On the boys' side in that Douglas event, Wheatland was first, Kelly Walsh second, and Cheyenne East third. Daniel Meyer of East and Isaac Schmidt of Kelly Walsh leading the way, carding 74s. Wyoming Cowboy football team cruising along with spring practices in Laramie. They had one yesterday, and normally speaking, starting jobs are not won or lost in the spring, but it is a great evaluation period, especially for new coaches and new head coach Jay Sawvell. And the folks will have another open practice this Saturday at War Memorial Stadium at 10:15 in the morning, and didn't have open practices when Craig Bowl was the coach. The annual spring game will be Saturday, April 27th at Cheyenne East High School. Major League Baseball, the Colorado Rockies will take on the Arizona Diamondbacks at 1 this afternoon in Denver. The Rockies dropped a tough 3-2 decision to Arizona last night. Elias Diaz of the Rockies went 2 for 4 with an RBI, and pitcher Cal Quintrill threw 6 innings, gave up 8 hits, 3 earned runs, and struck out 6. In the NHL, the regular season concluding soon. The Colorado Avalanche beat Minnesota last night 5-2. The Avs got a hat trick from Nathan McKinnon to improve to 49-24-6. Colorado is second in the Western Conference with 104 points, and they trail Dallas by 5 points for first place in the West with 3 regular season games remaining. And that's it in sports.
When will it be okay to ask for your evaluation of how UW football looks?
Months.
Months, okay.
Months.
How many new players do they have?
Probably plenty.
Okay.
So, and actually, they have a lot of guys that are returning from a year ago. So there are spots on the team that they're like, oh, okay, you guys could be good here.
Okay.
You know? I wouldn't, yeah.
Okay.
But normally speaking, let's try Labor Day.
Because you have to evaluate the coach, too. This is different.
Well, yeah, he's the new coach.
Yeah.
So, how about like after the first game?
After the first game,
which is the end of August.
Yeah, okay. So by then, I expect you to be in freak-out mode because it's never going to go your way.
Of course. It's par for the course.
All right.
It's all good.
Thank you, Frank. Coming up on some local business we have to take care of. Roll into news time after that. National, local. Update on your weather forecast. It's Wake Up Wyoming.